Yo, what's up YouTube? I'm Max, and this is my affirmation video from the book I've been writing through the Napoleon Hill Foundation what is it called? 3 Feet from Gold. I get 3 feet from gold and Think and Grow Rich. It's the same thing. But anyways, as you can see from all my other videos, it's the same thing. If you've just been following along with all my other videos and just listening along to what I have to say, this is from 3 Feet from Gold through the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I just copied the book here in my affirmation video, in my affirmation journal, and now I'm making an affirmation video. That's my affirmations. But we're really far along here. We're on chapter 20 and a new beginning. So if you just listen and follow along, this is a story to tell and plenty of information here provided for you. So this is chapter 20. This is a new beginning. People take on the nature and habits of the power of thought in which they assume most in a spirit of harmony and sympathy. And that's what Napoleon Hill said from the book Think and Grow Rich. All right, anyways, we're going to go ahead and continue on. When Greg got home, an invitation awaited him. The invitation was alone something spectacular, and behold, was a paper within it, was a trim. As Maya appreciated its beauty, Greg simply wanted to know what the event was. He inspected it impatiently. Your presence is requested as the 75th anniversary, 75th celebration. And if I repeat it in my brain, it's my affirmation video. I can just say whatever I want. Anyways, let me just continue on because I've been doing this for like 90 videos. Immediately, Greg's mind began spinning to the opportunity to socialize with one of his mentors and close friend. He knew that the party would turn into something very special, and that the quick prayer of gratitude, Maya's imagination would likewise be stirred at the meeting of Mr. Buckland in person. And in seeing that the luminaries had the heights intended, it's going to be great. It's so good it's great. She explained on the night of the celebration there was a full moon and a light sky. Greg and Maya arrived at the party dressed to the nines. Maya in a spectacular red style dress with a short hairstyle, just looking gorgeous as always. Greg with his notebook to record nuggets of wisdom tucked away in his tuxedo. Greetings and welcome aboard, said a friendly voice from beneath the captain's cap. All cap. In a typical Buckland fashion, the business leader of overboard, no pun intended, on the festivities, catering to the most spectacular yacht in the city, one of which are usually reserved for the government officials and all of the important people that think they're important. Greg, good to see you. Those called from across the stern. Happy birthday, Mr. B. We are appreciative of what you said, and we are lovely, and we are expecting you as usual. Buckland commented on the amazingness of what came through, and he had spoken onto the phone by which the email was a person in which we had meant to stop. She responded with a touch of rose blooming at her cheeks. Greg and Maya had then become their way through the cabin, scanning the tables of the cars and to look for their seats, and they could not have been more excited. Noticing that they were within earshot of the guests of honor. Joining for the festivities were society's finest, most prominent leaders. They felt like characters from the land of the misfit toys. Greg realized that Buckland had known exactly what he was doing in the seating assignments. It's an honor to be with you all, Maya proclaimed, raising a glass. Before Greg could even begin his toast, he began in a very familiar voice. He heard a very familiar voice, and which was joined in here. Ron Glosser announced. The partygoers raised their glasses and added to a new friends of acquaintances and those that are meant to meet, in which they may live in harmony and impact the lives of many. The guests clinked their glasses. Ladies and gentlemen, we have someone special in our midst. This is Greg and his date Maya. Greg is working on a new book about overcoming obstacles with the help of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. I am pleased to say that I have already had the opportunity to share some of the words of wisdom with which perhaps you could do the same. Thanks, Mr. Glosser, Greg said, humbled. What did Ron tell you? A table-mate asked. He said that one should make a major decision while one should not make a major decision in a low point. I said in the valley. Get that right. Glosser prodded. The other's guests appreciated his familiar instances on the precision of how excellent this goes. As the humorous mood subsided, another asked, What else did you learn? Have there been so many lessons? I didn't even know when to begin. About PMA. Maya suggested, oh yes, positive mental attitude. Gloucester interjected. He had motioned to his left and asked, do you like baseball? Of course, I was raised a fan of a San Diego Padre fan, and I am sorry that I had to whip your boys last week. Another member of the dinner party said, this is a day of McLean, owner of the Houston Astros. Gloucester said he knows firsthand. She knows firsthand. He knows firsthand the power of having the right attitude as well as not giving up at times when times get tough. Baseball team once owner remarked, we were the first bought franchise and it was tough times, all right. In fact, I had to write additional checks of all my own pockets to cover payroll. We're talking millions. That must have been a rough year, Maya said, and it had been rough 7 years. McLean boomed. Within months of taking over the team, my players went on the longest strike in baseball history. From there, it took 7 more years before they turned it into profit. Why didn't you just give up and sell the team? Another guest asked. Never quit anything in my life. Never quit anything in your life. He was a quick response. I never bought onto the team, a huge moneymaker anyways. It was just more for the love of the game. It was just more of love of giving back. And it turned out to be one of the greatest blessings I have ever had. He paused for a moment and then finished up his thought and utilizes the frame of the players and must have had a positive impact on our community. And visited the schools and the hospitals are really chipped in to make it a better place. You can't put a price tag on something like that. Besides, McLean concluded the detours and problems of which life was most interesting and unique and amazing. Greg whispered to Maya as he tumbled through his trusty pad, I guess we shouldn't cry over the setbacks at all. Overhearing him from McLean, said, heavens no. He understood this, and Greg wrote in the words that sometimes which situations may seem the worst are actually the best opportunities to take everything. It's all about leadership, McLean continued. Become one that sees the diamond in the lump of the coal, while the majority may only see the muck in the mud. A leader will see the things from a completely different perspective, different point of view. You have no point of view. It's like that old story about the 2 boys in the bar, and Greg gave the speaker his full attention. It was different how he first came, in which John Buckland, he felt different and more at ease and more himself, more opening to what he was being offered to him. Thank you. You know 2 boys in the barn? The first one that sees the giant 4-foot pile of droppings, he turns and hightails it out of there. As Drayton continued his story, Gloucester laughed, knowing the full well of where it was headed. The other boys see things differently. He goes in head first, jumping right into the middle of the pile, throwing his stuff all around. Then the farmer asks what he's doing, giving him his optimistic answer. The way I see it, mister, with all these manure around, the things are going to be the pony somewhere. The guest crackled at the old age humorous tale of what makes a great leader in view. Maya asked sincerely. Without missing a beat, McLean responded, I heard it and said it in time. Greg dutifully recorded his new thought and reflected on it for a moment. A true leader would take others where they would not have gone by themselves. So I'm taking you with me. Hear, hear, explained the authors in unison as they had raised their glasses once more in a toast of leadership. That's great stuff, thank you, Greg said appreciatively. He now remembered reading that McLean had taken his family business from $3 million a year enterprise into $19 billion with a B empire before selling it to Sam Walton in 1990. That was a successful leadership. What about you? Maya asked, the 2 well-dressed women with big smiles in their faces while grinning because Sharon Lesher told us to look for you tonight. She was right about your enthusiasm and your energy. She told us that she would want to hear your story. But our story is more about human nature than business. Our story is more about human nature. McLean then introduced the pair in a way that immediately grabbed everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sarah and of Feddersen. Fredersen, I can make it up. They are the founders of a very successful nonprofit organization called Child Help, and they have been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for 4 years in a row after their outstanding efforts in rescuing abused children across the globe. They worked as appreciated for many decades and reached for estimated 5 million youth. And in addition to the many awards their story had been made into a TV movie. Maya stood up, walked over, and hung out the two women, saying, "How wonderful you are, truly. You are doing God's work." "We hope so. He certainly has us working around the clock," Feddersen said. "How did you get started?" Greg asked, with a jacket. "How'd you get started?" Greg asked. Sarah responded, "Many years ago, over 50 now. Jovan, Jovan and I are entertainers at us so. While stationed in Japan, we came across the 11 orphan babies and a mixed American Asian percentage who no one would claim. We took them into our hotel room in hopes of finding them a home, but to no avail. Even the military officer said we had to put them back where we found them on the street. But we want to hear of that." Feddersen said, "We told the officers that we wanted what we wanted and we had asked, and that they had asked, but what we really had wanted was just to hide the children away and to do our shows. Finally, we had come across a woman in our town who was willing to help, but she had no money and nothing to offer these children but love. We promised if she took them in, we would return the clothes, food, and money and help care for them." The others at the table absorbed every word of the story. "What happened then?" Maya asked, intrigued. "We went into the servicemen and asked for help," Harmeyer said. "We were about them, and these children, and what they were going through, even suggested that they ought to help themselves. They ought to help them because they were afraid they were half American. It might well be their own kids." Ferguson continued the story as if they had told it many times before. "And did they need help? Now, Children has also aided over 5 million children. We have programs for 40 states and 14 countries. Our National Children Abuse Crisis Hotline helps thousands of children every month, and when they need it most, everyone at the table applauded more than just politely. Here you are excited about potentially winning the Nobel Peace Prize." Greg asked, "Are you more excited about the awareness for the child help than the award itself?" As they replied, "It's not about us. It's about all the thousands of volunteers who work for the children. You deserve the reward. Thank goodness you didn't give up. Thank goodness we didn't give up. Thank goodness you didn't give up in the face of challenges." Maya added, "As a nonprofit, we are always faced with challenges, from not being able to serve all the children who need our help, to raising the money year after year to help the ones that we can. As long as there are children suffering from abuse, our job will not be done. Our job is never done." And then with a gleam in her eye, "Thank you." With a gleam in her eye, Feddersen added, "And if you would like to help us, we would welcome it, either as a volunteer or a donor, 24/7. That's how hard these ladies work for our kids. You truly are angels on earth." Ron Glasser explained, "People say that quitting is not an option. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's always an option. Leaders simply understand that to succeed, we must never to quit and to act as if we're going to succeed and never lose focus on the end result." These women had the belief, and while we may play on words, successful people understand that they must always capture the words immediately and put it on the notepad and act as if. Put it on the notepad and act as if, and never believe in never. Act as if. March 25. Greg remembered vividly that he had continued and convinced that David's addiction could never be overcome. He also recalled that David had used the same phrase of Glasser, something that he had picked up from the rehab, "act as if." It seemed to be a common theme for these people seeking success in whatever realm. And the worst moments, when David had relapsed and looked lost, Greg had struggled with all the concept that his brother may never recover, but it didn't believe in them, perhaps that never would come. Over the next hour, the dinner companions shared the stories of success, struggle, and victory. This was turning out to be an intellectual, inspirational feast, as well as a culinary one. Then Sarah turned to Greg and said, "I understand from what Sharon has said to you, you have quite the journey about learning about perseverance on yourself, and you have our stories that we would like to hear." Glasser claimed in this. "That is right. And Bucky want to have it included in our circle, and we haven't already had it believed." Greg would have spent last year seeing the world through many different people's eyes. He had sat, he was there at the knee of the master. Mr. Buckland listened to the principles of the words of wisdom from him and his many friends, but just a week earlier, in Don Green's office, Greg had overcome with insecurity and a feeling of desperation. But maybe Gloucester was right. Along the way, Greg had learned from others' wisdom and made different choices for himself, and because of it, at that moment, he finally realized that he had become an honored guest himself. Shivers went down his spine as he felt the significance of his own personal transformation. He slowly said, I guess it is one thing to seek great advice and to record it, but an entirely different thing to take advice and act on it. Each of you has truly made a difference not only in our lives, but in the lives of many others. You can each choose the wisdom that spoke to your personal situation and made every effort to internalize it and then act on it. Gloucester smiled and Greg acted. Greg was like, yeah, I'm clearly done with it as well. I know you give the credit to Buckland and his friends that included, but Buckland didn't change your life. You did, haven't you? Greg said humbly, yes, I guess I have. Actually, I come from the depths of despair. I had lost mine and was facing financial disaster. When I first met Mr. Buckland, I am still putting my life back together, but now I am focused on the future with hope, great excitement, and anticipation. Squeezing Maya's hand, he continued, today, all I want in my life is to give my life my all. I have found my own courage and my learning from each of you. The guests around the table smiled at Greg's words. Gloucester himself pulled up a piece of paper and jotted, all I want in my life is to give my life my all. To give you my all. And you know who you are. Now, Greg, you have just been given all of us a great piece of advice. I like it. Gloucester put the notepaper back in his pocket. This doesn't fit in your pocket. This is a journal. I would get one. Back in his pocket. You surely have earned the right. Thank you, Greg. Greg was more than a bit shell-shocked by what had just happened. The honest sharing of what was really important had truly gotten to him through many tough times during his life, especially during the last year. His thoughts were interrupted by someone who tapped into the microphone and announced, may I have your attention, please? The entire ship is quieted, and Buckland stood to address his guests. Thank you for all coming out for this celebration. Usually it takes a funeral to get this many people to come out into one function. Maybe you don't think I'm going to make it another year. Maybe you don't think I'm going to make it. Everyone laughed. One of the greatest lessons I have learned through all my years, and all of which is on the planet, is the power of association. They say you are a reflection of the people you spend your time with. I'm blessed and honored to be thankful to have every one of you in my life. Cheers. Then dessert came, and Greg and Maya rose and strolled to the yacht's deck to enjoy some fresh air on the bow. As they were showered in the ocean's mist, they encountered a friendly-looking gentleman. Hello there, the pair greeted him. Well, hello yourselves, the guest responded. My name is Rudy. He raised his champagne flute in greeting. It's a pleasure to meet you, Maya said. Greg blurted out in his usual way, the only guy I know named Rudy was from that of the film years back, where the walk-on football player was carried off the field in celebration at the end of the famous Notre Dame game. The seafaring guest added, and you know to this date that was the last time that ever happened. I'm sorry, bro. Have you ever met Rudy? Craig asked. Every time I look into the vision, there came the response of a grin. Really, Greg's eyes lit up, and I came onto the movie. It was really a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. To be honest, it was almost never came to be. Maya asked, what do you mean? Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I thought the story would have never been such a great project, but no one else did. Finally, I found a screenwriter out in Hollywood who said he would love to meet me and to go over the ideas. He seemed very excited over the plan. I put some money together and flew out to meet him. Did you help him write it? Maya asked eagerly. It went like this, he responded. I sat in a booth at dinner over 30 minutes and never showed. An hour passed and still no sign of him. 2 hours passed and then 3, and then what'd you do? Greg pressed, intrigued by the tale. After that long, believe it or not, I still had hope. I still saw the potential of what the story offered, and I wasn't about to give up. That's just not my style. A friend who was with me, so I asked him to stay in my booth while I went outside and got some fresh air, just in case he showered, just in case he showed. I walked outside and he was there. My prompted no, as he replied, but there was a friendly face, a postal carrier, with a biggest grin I had ever seen. I said to him, I really appreciated that smile after the day I am having. What are you so cheerful about? The mailman started to laugh and said, I just moved here and from Michigan, and last week I was delivering mail in the show, and I am standing here in these shorts getting a suntan. All of these enjoyed. A good laugh at the image of the mail carrier sliding on his sunglasses, trying to imitate a celebrity. He said, I'm glad I could make your day, but hey, why are you here? What's your story? So I told him. I gave him a play-by-play of how I wanted to make a movie of my experience. The mailman said, you hear that a lot in this town. You hear that a lot in this town. Jesus. But your idea is pretty good. And then he asked, who are you supposed to meet? There was a pause as he took his sip of champagne. His two personal audiences stood captivated by his saga. When I told him about how angry he was in a positive, constructive way, he said, I like you and I'm going to help you. In fact, I know that guy stood you up. I just delivered the mail to him 30 minutes ago. I know where he lives and I'm going to tell you. Well, as long as you can imagine, I was excited and marched right over to the address they gave him and knocked on the door. The guy who stood him up, answered and said, who are you? As he was paused, where the waves were crashing along the side of the yacht, and only the sound of Greg and Maya and their breath was never to miss a word. What did you say? That was replied. And what I said here was that you're already late for lunch. You're already late. You're already behind. Greg and Maya turned to each other, acknowledging the other message, similarly to those who had been learning along their own path. They had recognized that they had not given up on his dream, and they had the courage to persevere. And he said, you know what? If you watch the credits of the final of the film, you'll see that the guy actually wrote the script. Pretty. She's so pretty. Pretty neat, huh? Greg pulled up his pad and wrote down an old lesson, said, in a new way, this is my affirmation video, so I can say whatever I want. In a new way, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. The blast of the foghorn broke into the monetary moments, propaganda all over the news, Reverie. Then John had come to an end, and the yacht loaded back into the port. Have to let you know on a little secret. That's not real. Have to let you know on a little secret. It's imaginary. Have to let you know on a little secret. I have to let you know on a little secret. Bucky told me that you were up to. That's why I wanted to share the story with you. That's why to remember everything that outweighs is the power of perseverance. As he walked away, Greg said to Maya, did you hear him? He actually sought me out. Maya touched his arm. That's just what it means when the tide is shifted and it's your turn. It's your turn, Max. The party guests filed off the boat. Greg and Maya were among the last to leave. Happy birthday, Mr. Buckland, Maya said as he hugged him goodbye. Thank you for all that you have done for us. My pleasure, Maya. He turns to Greg. I know you have some challenges within your venture, but stick with it. I heard you had Sharon and Letcher involved. That will make a great association for you. Have you figured out by now that you were just 3 feet from your own discovery of gold? Excuse me. I actually think we have. Greg said. By the way, there is something I have wanted to share with you for a while. Greg, you told me about the adoptive brother and his addiction problem. I could see it was tearing you up inside, even as you and Maya were having your own difficulties. And you were on your greatest journey of discovery. Greg didn't know what to say, so he listened intently and held Maya's hand. What I didn't tell you then is that I lost a daughter to drug addiction. She didn't find recovery. Whether she didn't want it badly enough or to try hard enough, she never found herself. Her mother and I lost our girl when she was 23, so young. To be honest, we haven't ever even been the same. I've done some service on the board of an addiction rehab center. Coincidentally, it is the same on which David went. Maya was crying and Greg tried with all his strength not to break down. He couldn't express in words how amazing grateful he was for Buckland's words. So I know your pain, and I'm so happy for your joy. From what I understand, David too is 3 feet from gold from the greatest success of his life. Recovery from addiction. It isn't easy, but it's his turn. And you can be one of the greatest teachers and friends and be with him. Share with him and learn from him. Let me take it back to see what chapter will... Let me take it back. Let me take it back. There it is. We are on chapter 20, and that was a new beginning. As I said, this is my affirmation video of my affirmation journal. So I just repeat it back to myself, everything that I've written from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, the book 3 Feet from Gold. Yes, I did copy the book, but that's probably a greater benefit than if I would have just wrote a book my own. So like I said, 3 Feet from Gold, Napoleon Hill Foundation, my affirmation journal, my affirmation video. I'm Max, and I'm out. Thanks for watching.